Good evening. I was about to say good morning. Every time I get a thing in this, I feel like I need to say good morning and welcome you all to Crosspoint Church. So it's good evening and welcome to Crosspoint Church. Tonight's a special night, and before we get started, I want to pray for our meal and pray for our night, and then I'll do a short introduction and turn it over to our speakers. Let's pray. Father God, I want to thank you for this evening. I want to thank you for the blessing of allowing us and just providing us the food to eat, and I pray that you use that to strengthen us and nourish us and just give us energy that we can then go do your work and your will in our lives and for your kingdom. Father, I pray for this evening. I pray for our speaker, Kelly, and I pray for all of us in this room that's going to hear some things that maybe we thought we're familiar with, but maybe learn more, or things that we just have no clue about. But Father, I pray that you speak through Kelly and you transform our hearts so that once again that we can be the type of parent, the type of influence, type of student, type of young Christian that you've called us to be. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, thank y'all for coming. So give a brief history, and I'll turn this over to Kelly and do a little bit how we're gonna do this tonight. So about, I don't know, maybe 12 to 15 months ago, Robin Hanstead came into my office and gave me a copy of this book and said that, you know, it's something I think you need to read, and it may be something that's of value to our people. She goes, I don't really know how we would do it. I don't know what to do, but you know, I can get a hold of her. I can talk to her if we want to bring her in or whatever. And so I said, okay. So I sort of looked at it, and like a lot of things, it sort of gets stuck in the back. And then we started the STIRT initiative, and one of those goals that we came up with as a church was to strengthen family ministries. And they did a survey. And for y'all that participated in the survey, it came back with what were the interests, what are the things that you need from Crosspoint, and what more information do you have to help in with your family. And one of the top ones was technology. And then the book came back in my mind, and I thought, you know, maybe we can get Kelly to come in here and speak. So this idea of maybe having these little TED Talks, so to speak, and let people come in to speak to him, have come out of that STIRT initiative and the family ministry in particular. So I want to thank them for pushing that going forward. And in 2 weeks, we'll have, October 23rd, we have another parenting from Celebrate Calm. That'll be on Wednesday night as well. They'll be here. It'll be a night that we can, once again, pour into the families and equip them for that. So one of our desires here is that we want, we would love our families to thrive, right? We want them to thrive in God's Word and grow in God's Word, and we think this is something that can help us. So Kelly, a few years ago, she's going to get into her story, so I won't tell the whole thing, had an event in her life that really prompted her to find out more what's going on in this technology, in this world of screens and everything, and then it led to writing this book, Managing Media, Creating Character. And then that led to this ministry called Brave Parenting. And so she'll explain more of that in there, but we're blessed to have her with us. And after this is over, what's going to happen about the first 30 minutes, we're going to be in here together. Then the students are going to leave with Justin, and the parents will stay in here, and we'll go about another hour after that. Okay, so we'll probably have you out around 7:45 and ready to go on. And if you have any questions, she'll be about here at her book table, and you can ask her. She'll be around for any questions or anything that you have after that. All right? So without anything else, I just want to introduce Kelly Newcomb.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank y'all. I am super excited to be here. I'm humbled and just very grateful that God would use me, and really beauty from ashes. It was a really kind of terrible story of why I started Brave Parenting. I am the mother of 7 children who I have adopted from foster care. One of them, when she was a teenager back in 2015, even though we had set limits on her smartphone to where she could not access social media because of some of the things that had happened in her past when she was in foster care, she was able to get on everyone else's devices in the school. And so she did exactly what she wanted to do, but on other people's devices, because no one had restrictions, no one had limits, and she created relationships with people from all over the country. And one day, when we realized that she had run away and she did not come home from school, she was gone for 5 days. We had no idea where she was, what was going on. And then finally, someone from school came to our house at 11 o'clock at night in tears and said, I have to tell you, I know where your daughter is, and I think she's about to be trafficked. She was in a home right in our town that's harboring runaways, and a man was coming from Michigan to pick her up. Well, we went and rescued her from that situation against her will, frankly, because she was convinced, as many people who are victims of trafficking are, that this was a real relationship. And I just sort of woke up and thought, wow, this is really crazy. If this can happen, so easily, we can be so deceived, well then, what else is going on? So I began asking parents all over different age ranges, what are you doing about technology, and what are you doing about phones? And everyone gave me pretty much the same answer. I don't really know. I don't know what I should be doing. I don't really have any standards. No one had a standard, but everybody desired a standard. Every parent was hungry for, how do we do this? Because we don't know. So now for you as kids, right, you're growing up in a world that this is your world. You don't know this old school, like where you use a landline and a cord. That is like beyond your comprehension. But to us, this is crazy and it's new and we don't understand it. And so there's a big divide. How many of you students feel like your parents are just a little wacky and crazy and don't really have an understanding of technology? How many raise your hands? Don't be ashamed. I know you feel that way. I've got 7 kids. I know how it is. How many parents think that your kids have like unrealistic expectations about technology and what they should be allowed to have and use? Right? Okay? So there is this big divide. Here's kids, and they have their way of thinking, and then here's all of us adults, and we have our way of thinking, and we are not coming together. And so it's creating a lot of battles. You all have a little bit of battles over the screen in your home, right? Again, I know it. So right now, my kids are 12 to 22. So I have really parented through every single possible age, through this entire generation from the time that smartphones started all the way on. So let's take a look. What is our screens? What does our screens look like? Well, it's everything, right? It's the television, it's the Xbox and the PlayStation, it's our smartphones, it's our tablets. Screens are everywhere. You can't really go anywhere without coming across them. Now, kids, I know that you're sitting in here and you're like, this crazy mom lady, she's going to come in here and she's going to want to ban all of this technology. Let me tell you, I am not here to tell your parents technology is terrible and you should just ban it all, and that is not at all what I'm here to do. My goal is to bridge this divide between you, is to help your parents understand from your perspective, but then for you to understand a little bit more of your parents' perspective so that together you can both set the standard for screens in your home. Because ultimately, relationships are greater than screens. And Satan wants nothing more than to destroy our relationships. That's what he wants. That's what we were created for. We were created for a relationship with Christ and a relationship with other people. That is one of our core purposes here. Well, Satan wants to get in that, and if he can do that through a screen, you better believe he's going to do that. He often tricks us anyway through the relationships on the screen, deceptive ways that we can't really understand tone when we're texting anymore, and so that can hurt relationships, right? So we're not going to let Satan do that, and we are going to protect our relationships. Now, why does this topic, why is it so important that we have to have one specific night here with students and your parents, and we all have to talk about this? Why is it so important? I'm going to give you 4 reasons, and these are big reasons, and you need to know them as students, and parents, you really need to understand it too. And the first reason why this is such a big deal is because of us as parents. We have done a pretty terrible job at being role models. Not all of us, but a lot of us. When you guys were probably babies, toddlers, maybe you were in 1st grade, the iPhone came out, and we got them, and we were like, this is awesome. The iPad came next. This is great. We loved it. All of us did. We just fell in love with it. As adults, we got the apps, we got the games. We all fell in love with this instant communication and this tool that we could have with us And it made our lives so much easier. So when you were growing up, what did you do? You watched your parents entranced on their own phone. Chances are they used it quite a bit. They took pictures of you, they took videos of you, they text messaged, they did all of that. You watched them do that, and we had no idea what we were role modeling. It really wasn't until the past 6, 7, 8 years that now we're kind of like, oh, wait a second. So we as parents, we have let's just be honest, we don't really have a clue because the whole world, there is no standard. There's no set standard of how we should be doing this. Y'all don't know, you probably have friends who, some are all on social media, do nothing but social media. You might have some who do nothing on social media and some who don't play video games. It's just all across the board. So number one is we as parents. The second reason is this technology is not neutral. It is not neutral, meaning there is artificial intelligence backing it. So what is artificial intelligence or AI? Well, it is computer learning. It is a computer given a task, and that computer learns how to achieve that one task, and it makes new rules, and it corrects itself, and that one task is typically a maximum engagement. That's the goal. Every video game, every app, every social media platform, they want you engaged. And so this computer is doing it all behind the scenes. Well, artificial intelligence, we have to recognize, is not natural intelligence. It's not. It doesn't care what it's doing to your relationships. That artificial intelligence doesn't care what kind of character you're growing in or whether or not you're suffering from depression or anxiety. It can't recognize those things because it only has one goal, and that's maximum engagement. And that's why you can't put the phone down. That's why you want to not be as distracted, but you can't stop yourself. It's because it is not neutral. And the next reason is because it is everywhere and incorporated into everything. As I just mentioned, you really can't do anything without the screen. Think about your typical day. If you use your phone for an alarm clock, you wake up in the morning, you touch your phone. The first thing you do is to turn off that alarm. Then maybe you check the weather so you can see what it is that you're going to wear for the day based on the weather. Maybe then you text your friends, you see what's going on, you check social media. Did I miss anything overnight while I was sleeping? And then maybe you check the GPS, you're gonna look for the fastest way to get to school. Maybe you even jump on the Starbucks app and order your coffee or Frappuccino in advance. You can stop by and get it on the way to school. Again, you're using that technology. Then you're checking social media, you're making sure what's going on in the world. Maybe you're texting your friends, you get to school. Then you use it for maybe some research online. Maybe you're using Google Classroom if your school uses that. Class gets kind of boring. You jump over, maybe you do a little bit of online shopping. Maybe you play a game, maybe you're checking YouTube, checking social media, see what's going on. Lunchtime comes, you and your friends, you take some pictures of each other. You take those pictures, you edit those pictures, then you upload those pictures, you post them, and then you check to see how those pictures are doing online, how they're performing. After school, maybe you check your bank account. Do I have money to stop and get some food with my friends after school? Or, hey, what movies are playing? I'm just going to get on this app, and I'm going to see what movies are playing. And then you get home. I still got some homework to do. So you're going to jump back on the phone. You're going to do some homework, check your grades. You're going to check social media. Maybe you're going to watch a movie or watch some Netflix, watch some YouTube. Finally, it's night. You set the alarm. You turn it off. How many times did you touch that screen? Over 3,000 times. It's everywhere and incorporated into everything. We can't avoid it. At this point in our world, it's almost unavoidable. And then the fourth reason is because it has created a dependence. So because we as parents didn't do a great job, and because this technology that's been developed is not neutral, and because it's everywhere and incorporated into everything, it has created a dependency in us. We cannot go without it. Moms and dads, how many of you leave for work and forget your phone and sort of oh my gosh, I gotta go back home. I can't live without my phone. Right, kids? You ever experienced that? Did you ever forget your phone? I have to get my phone. You can't live without it, right? We are dependent on it. And one of the reasons is also because of the intermittent rewards. Is every notification sends this little pleasure chemical to your brain, and it's like, ooh, I'm important, right? The notifications, if you're playing a game, intermittent rewards are absolutely involved in them. Like, you don't know if you're playing Fortnite when you're gonna come across a loot box. It keeps you going. It knows exactly maybe when you're getting bored of the game, and then it strategically places that loot box for you to get. It's intermittent rewards. It's that constant. It's why people who gamble are constantly pulling the slots. Maybe next time, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna win. The next notification, you just constantly check your phone. It has created a very strong dependence in us. So this is why it's a big deal. Maybe you just thought your parents were being a little ridiculous. Parents maybe thought your kids were being ridiculous, but you know what? These are real facts, and they're already backed by scientific proof. It's not neutral. We already know it's everywhere, and it has created a real dependence. So, to give you a little perspective, students, about why your parents are also like what in the world's going on? How do we do this? Let's look at smartphone ownership. 2012, one of you students, go ahead. Oh, bring that back up. Okay, never mind. I was going to ask you what the percentage was of people, of teenagers who had phones. 23% in 2012 of teenagers had phones. 23%. Now, don't bring up the next one yet. Okay, what do you think the percentage is right now in 2019? 95%. 95%. So in 7 years, we went from 1 in 4, basically, of our teenagers. So in a group of 100 students, we had 23 students who had smartphones. That kind of seems funny now, doesn't it? But that was not very long ago at all. And now, we've got almost everyone, almost every single student. And look at that eight and older. Less than 1%. No 8-year-olds had smartphones in 2012, but now they're already at 42%. So those 7 years when all of a sudden every single teenager got a smartphone, this is what's thrown us off a little bit. You think it's normal because you grew right into it. But we're looking at it and we're saying, hold on. What just happened in the past decade that now all of a sudden every teenager has a $1,000 computer being carried around in their pocket? So that's kind of where that divide comes in. Interestingly, it took the television 50 years from the time it was created to reach 90% of American homes. 50 years. It took the personal computer 30 years to reach 90% of American homes. And how long did it take the smartphone? 10 years. 10 years. So in your lifespan, this has all happened. And so for us who are old people, who are, 40, 30, maybe you're younger, 50, however, right? This is like, again, what happened? It has taken us really off course. So what did happen, right? And so 2012 and on, essentially the Android came out, so we had multiple types of smartphones. The iPhone came out with later generations, and so parents started giving kids their smartphones because they were so convenient for us. They helped us so much. We loved them, so why not give our kids that same technology? And the iPads came out, and so we began handing kids iPads. And these iPads just were full of the whole world of life. It was just every game possible, videos, you name it. And we thought, wow, this is great. This entertains my child at the doctor's office and in the grocery store. And all of a sudden, we as parents, for a little while, we were kind of clueless, and we thought, this is so awesome. You can just spend all day on it, Johnny. This is great. And so we did. We allowed them. We just didn't know that it might be bad. It might be bad for their brain development. It might be bad for their eyes. We had no clue, so we just kind of gave them. It was great for us. It gave us a reprieve, and kids aren't going to complain, right? But then all of a sudden the research started coming out that actually it's not that great to allow young children to be on the screen. And so then we as parents are like, how do we put this genie back in the bottle? This is what we were like. I mean, it was, okay, here we are. I've already given a phone, or I've already introduced this iPad. They're so used to having all of this. How do we ever go back? And so this is where we're at now, and that's why you as kids are like, this is ridiculous, Why can't we just have this all the time? I had the iPad as a child, So why can't I continue to do this through my teen years? So we as parents, again, haven't done the best job, and that's why we're here. We're here to learn. Because what's happened is it's greatly affected our relationships. Not only marriages, but the family dynamic. Because you don't have to go very far. You can find it happening with Christian families from the church. You can find it with 70-year-old couples who've been married for 50 years. You go to a restaurant and you see them, and what are they doing? They're all staring at their screens. They're not engaged with one another. They're just looking at their screens. And that's sad because, again, Satan loves this. So some parents have just gotten a little apathetic, like, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything, so I'm just going to engage in my phone. You can engage in your phone. We don't fight. We don't battle. It's no big deal. We don't want that. We want it to come together. We want students to be able to express why you like technology and for your parents to hear you why technology is so important. And we want you as students to hear parents and say, I know you love technology, but these are my concerns. So that's the goal, is to do that. Either way, we know you're caught in the middle. So let's shed a little bit more light on this. How adults use their smartphones. Let's take a look at this. Mostly it's productive, right? We have text messaging as being the primary thing, of course. Not only are we texting family members, but we're also, texting work-related items. We're texting maybe neighbors. We're coordinating carpools and sporting activities, and all of that entails in parenting. That's a huge part. Email, of course, whether it be work or not. Facebook, yes. We're the old folks who dominate Facebook, right? So we know that. Camera, we're taking pictures of you guys as kids, and so on. Most of this is pretty productive use, you could say. I'm sure it's not all, right? But we know that it's incorporated into everything and everywhere, so this isn't too surprising. So let's take a look at how kids are using their smartphones. The number one way is playing games. Second, right behind it, is social media. So, this may or may not be true for you, but for a lot of kids, it's because you grew up playing games on the iPad. That's, whether you were doing educational games, that's what you knew. So when you got a phone to put in your back pocket and to carry around with you, you basically did the same thing. You just kind of played games. It's your natural default. Games are an escape. It's easy, so you're playing games. But then you're using social media, and really, only 47% is for the text and video calls, which is interesting because most parents give you the phone because you want to be able to communicate and connect with your friends. But it's not, a lot of times, not happening anymore through regular communication channels. It's happening through video games, and it's happening through social media. And why is it happening in those places? I know. Kids know. But do parents know? Because it's easy to hide all of those conversations. Those are all internet-based. Those are all deletable. And you're already there playing the game. Why not talk with your friends while playing the game? And you're already there scrolling social media, so why not talk to your friends while doing all of that? So we want that smartphone to be a tool to aid in communication, but when we're not really producing content, it's not being used in a productive way, it's really just being used in a lot of consumption ways, a lot of ways to kind of alleviate our boredom, that becomes a concern. Let's take a look at what this looks like. Here's some examples of screen time. How many of you parents or kids, how many of you have screens, if you have iPhones, you have screen time set up where you can see how much time is used on your phone? So here's one example. 4 hours and 52 minutes is the daily average. That comes out to about 37 hours. That's almost an entire work week of working a full-time job spent on the phone. Even worse, in this 9 hours and 40 minutes, I know the person whose phone this is. It's not one of my children, but it is one of my children's friends, who admittedly cannot put her phone down and shared her daily screen time with me. 9 hours and 40 minutes on the phone, and this was a school day. That's a school day. That's how much. The average media consumption of a teenager is 9 hours a day. 9 hours a day. But it didn't used to always be this way. Take a look at this. 8 and 9 is 2 hours a day. So when our kids are still in elementary school, they're using 2 hours a day of media, which is pretty standard. It's actually pretty acceptable by psychologists and experts. But when they get their smartphone, it goes from 2 hours to 9 hours. And that's a big jump. That's a big jump. So instead of playing, being physically active, we're spending so much more time on our phones. And all of that time can't possibly be productive, right? And so that is one of our concerns. We want you to use the smartphone and any technology as a tool. And we know that a lot of times you do because you need it for schoolwork now. How many of you use your phone or the internet pretty much daily to get your homework done? Almost all of you, right? Again, it's everywhere and incorporated into everything, so we can't go without it. But at the same time, we want there to be a balance between productive use and consuming. There is a time and a place for everything. There's a time that we can be entertained, but then there's also a time when we need to be educated. But if we have our smartphones and there are no limits, and I can easily watch YouTube instead of sit in class and be educated, what am I going to choose? I mean, you might choose paying attention to maybe a physics lecture or some, English literature, discussion. You could, and that'd be really awesome, but what's the reality that you will? It's too easy. It's too easy. Remember, this is not neutral technology. It's constantly beckoning you to pull it out as soon as you get bored. Well, high school, middle school, it can get boring, right? And so that's our concern, is that we're not balancing entertainment and education. We're not balancing very well the idea of consuming versus maybe serving. We're not balancing character along with the media that we consume. And that's where we want to get. We want to get to a balance to where you are truly using it as a tool, but it requires a lot of accountability. It requires accountability for me, so I give my kids permission that they can call me out anytime I'm on my phone and they want my attention. Guess how much I really love that? I don't love it at all, to be honest with you. But it's a standard in our home that we can do this because what? Relationships are greater than screens. And you have to live that and believe that and set that as your standard. Because if you allow yourself to get disconnected from one another, parent to child, husband to wife, or even like your peers, you as students with your friends, you will, and Satan will love it. He would love to keep you isolated, alone, with all of those terrible lies that he wants to breathe into you. So I sent some questions in to Justin, and Justin asked all of you students these questions, and you gave the answers, and I received those answers, and those answers are going to be what we discuss over the next hour with your parents. I asked this question: what do you wish your parents understood better about your technology use? And you were really honest, and I loved it. I loved your responses. The next question I asked is, if you could change one aspect of how technology and screens is used in your home, what would it be? How many parents think that your child asks for more screen time to be used in your home? How many of you think they ask for less screen time? You're going to be surprised, because there was a lot of kids who asked for less. How has social media and screens tempted you away from your faith and or helped you grow your faith? Because this is really the core of it. If we're living Christ-centered, Christ-following lives, we have to acknowledge that the world and everything that exists on the internet wants to draw us away from Christ. That's just how it is, right? We know this. So we have to acknowledge that when we're there, we're in this space, it's so easy to be tempted and to walk away. I loved your answers, students. I loved your honesty, and we're going to be discussing that. How can what you want your parents to know and what I share with them, how can you then go home tonight and come to a better place? That's the goal. A place where there's a known standard, between both of you, and you're both being held to that standard. And there are set rules, and they're not changing based on emotions and feelings and grades or whatever. And they might change on grades, but that's the goal. It's because it's not going anywhere, so we all have to adapt, and we better adapt focusing on relationships. Because if we lose relationships, then we're lost. We're just as lost as the rest of the world. But we are in Christ, and therefore we can prioritize the relationships. The relationship is never going to be overtaken by the screen. So that is the goal. I want to help and equip your parents to see your side of it and set this standard and to be great role models. Because we have stuff to learn from you, and you have stuff to learn from us. That's the truth. That's the reality. All right, students, you ready? You ready to let your parents learn some things? Thank you all, students, for your attention so much. I know that Justin's going to take you. Oh, it's okay. There's not really a specific order. Do what? Maybe. I don't remember. And there's a lot of students in here. Some of these kiddos did not look happy to hear this topic. It's okay. So a lot of these resources are, they're very broad. You may need it, you may not, but someone you know may need that resource, and so that could be really helpful. I can't get into the very nitty-gritty of how you can specifically, secure your internet at home and put parental controls. I have a whole workshop where I do that, but that's just not this one. But there is the iPhone, at least if you have an iPhone. It guides you through setting up screen time and parental controls there. There's a slang term sheet that you all need to know. It's good information. There is a monitoring resources of all the resources that we recommend. And then device resources. I think you're going to get it all. I'm going to go ahead and read some of the answers while you're all getting situated that your students gave that don't really fit into my presentation, but I still think it's valuable to know. And then the other stuff I'm going to kind of go as I continue on. When I asked the question of what do you wish your parents understood better, and I hear this same answer every single place I go and ask this question. And it was given multiple times. You cannot pause online games. They want you to know that when you say get off and they're in the middle of a game, you can't just get off the game. Like, you've got to give me, it's funny. And my kids have said the same thing to me, and so now it's very much, I'm going to tell you 10 minutes in advance, and if that game happens to be over in 3 minutes, well then it's over, right, in 3 minutes. But it's funny because that is a very big deal if you do allow your kids to play video games, which is not necessarily bad. I mean, I allow my kids to play some, but man, they are very serious about not shutting down or quitting in the middle of an online game. Technology doesn't rot your brain, Mom and Dad. You need to know. Doesn't rot your brain. And it's not a complete waste of time. When I asked the question of, actually, I have a lot of these. Hang on. Yeah, the rest kind of fit in. I was really encouraged when I asked the third question of how has social media or screens grown your faith? And many, not any of the high school, but many of the middle schoolers mentioned Christian movies, that their faith was grown by watching like Overcomer and Breakthrough. And I thought that was really encouraging, that a movie of that caliber, it's just a Christian movie. If you've seen them, obviously you probably have because you probably took your kids, is having that kind of impact. So that was actually pretty cool information that they were sharing that. Okay, we ready? Everybody's good? All right, so I'm going to go over 3 truths. This is the truths that your kids really don't want to hear, but you need to hear to get that full picture. What we talked about, the why and all of that, the divide, I'm sure you feel it. I feel it because I'm in the middle of it all too. Right now, I mean, I have a 12, 2 13, 15, 16, 17-year-old. So like, 3 middle schoolers and 3 high schoolers. I'm in it with you. I totally get it. So let's go over truth number 1. And that is that tech savvy is not tech mature. Our kids are tech savvy. They can do what we can't do. I still can't figure out what HDMI I can actually watch a movie on my television, but my kids can do it without, thinking twice. Why is that? I don't know. But same thing, like even grandparents, they'll go to kids and they'll be like, oh, can you do this for me? And so kids, because they're so savvy, believe that they are also tech mature and that they deserve sort of or are entitled, in a way, to have all of this access and have all of this technology because they are so savvy, and we are not. We are not savvy. We don't know. One student answered to that question, what do I want my parents to know? Everything. So they stop asking me for help. Just watch a YouTube video. So, okay, we admit it. We're not that savvy. But this is kind of one of those places we can come together. But think about it. In 2008, I got my first iPhone. And I had a 2-year-old at the time. And I remember thinking, and you're probably all going to be in this same spot because we have kids the same age. They swiped over and touched the app. And you thought, oh, my kid is so smart. They know how to use this. Right? Did you think that some of the same stuff? And here now, you can do that. They're doing this at 8 months old. It's not that they're smart. I mean, smartphones are smart so that we don't have to be. That's the truth of it. We, are getting really dumber because it does everything for us. So it's not that they are making our kids more intelligent. They're just created to be that way. But tech mature, that is totally different, right? That is looking at technology from a very mature and wise standpoint. It is saying, I need to do my homework, and even though I want to play video games, I'm going to get my homework done first, and then if I have time, then I'm going to play video games. Is this what our kids do? Not a lot, right? Because they're savvy. They just want to be on it and in it all the time. Tech mature is also, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, this came up in my game, this ad, and it just seems really inappropriate, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. That's tech mature. It's recognizing this is kind of inappropriate, and I should probably go tell someone. Not every child is going to do that. It could also be, our teenagers, hey, I I know you're going to be upset, but I just need to tell you in advance, I don't know what to do, and I've kind of got myself in this situation, so I'm just going to come to you first. And I've been talking to this person online, and I thought we were, like friends, and it was cool, but now they are threatening me, and they're saying if I don't send them pictures that they're going to, blast me all over social media, and I don't know what to do, right? That is tech mature. It's realizing that I don't know how to handle this. I need help. I need wisdom in order to manage this sort of technology. By the way, that is called sextortion, and it is super common. And very, very few teens have the bravery to come and tell their parents that they are being basically extorted for nude photos. So that's the difference, like tech savvy, tech mature. Let's just take a quick look of what really our tech savvy looks like in our kids. All right, these fun filters, I'm gonna make myself look like a bunny or a puppy, and they puke out a rainbow and do all this kind of stuff, right? It's fun, but that's just savvy, that's just consuming. It's not really tech mature. Yeah, you can do it and it's kind of fun, but that's kind of what it looks like. Wait a second, I've gotta post this, right? They are so much driven about content. If they have social media, their thought processes change to say, what can I do to post on social media? It's not like, hey, I'm already doing this thing, so let me just take a picture and then I'll post on social media. They start thinking of, what can I do in order to look better on social media, right? And it doesn't matter, they're taking pictures all the time, right? That camera on that phone is probably one of the most used apps for young, especially middle schoolers, high school girls. And then thirdly, did you read this? He says, how did Beyonce's album go to #1 in 100 countries when there's only 7? Right? No, actually not, right? So just because they're savvy, just because they can use Twitter, just because they can use all these filters, does not mean they're tech mature. Doesn't mean that they're discerning what they're posting all the time. Truth number 2 is tech consumed is not healthy. There's using technology as a tool, and then there's just being consumed or obsessed with using technology. And a lot of times, that's where we find our middle school age. Still high school, but it is definitely our middle school age students. So let me tell you a little bit about tech consumed of what our kids said. When I asked them about how it grows their faith, many of them said that I use the Bible app quite a bit, which I thought was really great. That's one thing we definitely want them to consume. That's a benefit of a smartphone, is that they can take the Bible everywhere they go. That's great, right? But they're also, right, it's a balance. They're also doing other stuff. But it was great that they recognized that they are using the Bible app, or they're watching sermons or inspiring YouTube videos of people being bold about their faith. However, they also admitted that they spend more time on technology rather than reading their Bible. And that they're so distracted that they don't, they're too busy playing games, or they're so caught up in what they're doing that they don't even think about reading the Bible, or many said, I don't even think about Jesus. Okay, we get it, they're kids, but at the same time, they're recognizing that they should, but they're so distracted by the phone and all that it entails that they're not. And so that's where we come in. So tech consumed is not healthy. A couple different ways of healthy that we're going to look at is not only the consumption time, but also their emotional well-being and their safety. When we look at consumption time, I showed you those 2 slides earlier, and I want the kids to see, because this is pretty common. How many of you look at your kids' screen time? I asked you before. Is this about average of what you're seeing? This is high. 9 hours and 40 minutes is high. My high schooler, who uses the most technology, uses about 4 to 5 hours through school. What are you seeing? 2, 3, 4, more? About that. So a lot of it's consumed, but they're not only consuming through the phone, right? They're also on the computers at school. They're also maybe watching television. There's lots of different ways that they can consume media. But it's very different when you think of, we consume food, right? We do that, but then it turns into nutrients, it turns into energy. We can consume things, they're not necessarily bad, but we want to make sure that what they're consuming is actually producing something in them. We don't want them just to consume for the sake of consuming, consume for the sake of entertainment, because that can be dangerous. Because really, at that point, it's that the technology is consuming us. We're not necessarily consuming it, right? So, a couple facts about their emotional health. When you are consumed, kids who spend an hour and 30 minutes on social media a day are 56% more likely to state that they are unhappy. There's a 27% increased risk of depression. Actually, I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes, to be exact. That's the defined time. Not only that, but since 2007, when the smartphone came out, suicide rates for our young children, 10 to 14, have doubled. Now, there are tons of research that is ongoing and that is already going on right now, and there's two places of thinking. They're saying, hey, people who are depressed are just spending more time on their phone and more time on social media in order to feel better. Then there's the other place of thinking that says they're spending all of this time on social media and it is making them feel depressed. It is making them feel anxious. It's making them feel lonely. There's both thoughts, but here's the deal. No matter what, social media falls right in there. We don't know. Right now, it's corollary that the more social media you use, the more depressed that you are. But the bottom line is, we know what social media does to us. If you are on social media, no, I don't think there's any single one of us who can say that you've not seen something and compared what you've seen to your own life. I don't have really scholastically high achievers of kids, and when I get on there and I see that this person, this my friend's child, won like this academic award in their National Honor Society, they do all that, and what's the first thought that Satan whispers in my ear? I wish my kids, were receiving all those awards. But does it matter? No, my kids are awesome. But I'm immediately comparing what I see other parents posting to my own children. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to turn that lie that I heard from Facebook to my children. Why can't you get better grades? Why can't you be in the National Honor Society? And that's not good, right? And it's all because I was on there. And that's the same thing. If it can happen to us as adults with fully formed frontal lobes of our brain, fully able to recognize our purpose and who we are as parents and our children, then how on earth could our kids, especially in middle school, handle this? How can they handle that if we can barely handle it? The other aspect is their safety, the predators that can be on there. So we have a couple different kinds of predators. One is thieves and crooks. This is what we're going to call them. And these are essentially, hackers who are breaking in and stealing passwords and email addresses. Just came out yesterday that 21 million people who use Words with Friends, all of their, the game, like the Scrabble game on the phone, all of their passwords and emails and names and everything were stolen from a hacker. That's just what happens. That's the kind of people there are online. And when our kids who are savvy but not mature are putting so much of their information out there, very easily, they are the biggest target. The biggest target for scams, for hackers. They can sell fake stuff. You get caught up in all sorts of different schemes. My 17-year-old daughter, she does homeschool and she nannies during the day while she does homeschool. And she was like, oh, someone contacted me on Facebook for this job. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Oh, well, it's really great. So they're moving here from out of town, and they said that they want to pay me this amount of money, and it sounds really great. Well, they want me to go ahead and go to their apartment and receive all of their appliances. All right, and so at this point, my husband and I are like, no, right? No way. And it turned out to be this gigantic scam that she was getting roped in. But again, savvy for sure, but not mature enough to recognize the difference between a scam, one that she could have totally endangered herself in, and an actual nannying request. We also have bullies and trolls. This is, well, honestly, it's our kids, it's adults, it's tons of people, right, who can really spread hate just for the sake of spreading hate and discord among us. I mean, it polarizes us. I mean, you don't have to look any further than the political place on Twitter or anywhere to realize how it has, the polarized views of society right now. That's because of the hate that's so easy. Because there's no feelings. I don't have to look you in the eye when I say something hateful when it's being said online. I can just say it, and I can just move on with my day, and I don't know how I affected you, and it doesn't matter. And sadly, now there's so much of it. And there's also their friends and peers. You may think, well, how can our kids' friends or our friends and peers, how can those be predators? Well, because they carry around on their little mini computer in their pocket camera and video, it's so easy to take a compromising picture, an embarrassing video, and spread it, share it on social media, spread it around to everyone in the school. Maybe it just goes to your friends, but it's so funny, it just keeps spreading around. Ultimately, shaming them, bullying them, trying to be funny, because they're friends, right? But that can so easily just destroy a young child when they become embarrassed to that extent. Just recently, a 16-year-old boy committed suicide after, being shamed for coming out, someone outed him for being homosexual on Snapchat, and he took his life. Just like that. Too much pressure. So yes, their friends and their peers all around them can be predators to them. Not only that, but actual, really crazy sexual predators come to our children through social media as friends. They are posing themselves as, I'm just, a 17-year-old boy who just moved into town. They're pretending that they're that way, or that they're a girl trying to befriend a girl. Oh my gosh, we love the same music, we love all of the same things, and they essentially groom them, become friends with them in order to lure them in. That's how predators work. 87% of all sexual predators start by social media profiles. That is one huge area of predators. And then also we have the global connections. Because we are online, again, incorporated into everywhere and everything. We have companies, and it's global. We're not just talking about people in America who have American values and, they're Christian. No, right? This is global. So you can have people of multiple ethnicities and multiple beliefs. Beliefs that are very, opposing to Christianity, and that can be online. Not only that, but look at the companies. Facebook itself collecting our data, selling our data. That's really a predator. They're preying on us. Did we all know that our data was being taken and sold? No, right? And not only that, they're targeting ads. They're selling our likes and our preferences so that we can be targeted with ads, make us more and more consuming. All right, so we have truth number 1, tech savvy is not tech mature. Truth 2, tech consumed is not healthy. And then we have truth number 3, tech savvy and consumed does not equal or guarantee success. Remember the top 2 ways that kids use their phone? What was number 1? Games. Number 2? Social media, right? So does scrolling on Instagram build up the character needed to go to college? Playing Fortnite, does that build up the character strength to succeed in business after high school? Not really, but what do we have? Especially when it comes to Fortnite, is that we have all of these people succeeding in this area where they think, I could be a professional video game player, right? I can just post content and get paid for it and have people send me clothes and do all of this, and I can, become successful in this realm. And so usually when I have the kids in here, when I say this, they're like, yeah, my kids alone, they heard about the Fortnite World Cup. Y'all heard of the Fortnite World Cup? Okay. 40 million people entered the Fortnite World Cup. One 16-year-old boy won. So what do our kids look at? They look at that one 16-year-old boy and say, that's going to be me. I'm going to win that $3 million, right? I can be that person. Heck yeah, right? I'm just going to play 8 hours a day, and it's going to be great. It's going to be me. It's going to be me. They are not looking at the 39,999,999 other people who lost and got nothing, right? It's called survivorship bias. and they're only looking at that one person. Or, I don't know if you know who James Charles is. You know who he is? YouTube, he's a guy, but he's like a cover girl makeup artist. And he is a millionaire. He's 18 years old, but he wears makeup. Okay, but, kids are like, well, if he can become a millionaire for just wearing makeup, well, then I can post some videos on YouTube. And these are the conversations I hear. It's what I hear when we ask, students these surveys. It just feels like, yes, I can win at this. So just so you know, in case you approach this area where you have a little survivorship bias going on in your house, let's look at a few of these. Now, your child's chances of going to the NBA is 1 in 11,771. That's a 0.008% chance. If you're a senior in high school playing basketball, this is your chance of going to the NBA. Making it to the top 200 in the Fortnite World Cup, just top 200, 0.0005%. To be a YouTube star, 0.002% of actually making money as a famous YouTuber. However, your chances to earn a $100,000 yearly income, actually a lot better when you look at it. You got 4% chance. 4% sounds pretty low, but man, when you're looking at that statistic to actually become a YouTube star, it's like the greatest odds you can appear. However, but then we have the last one. Your chances to be arrested by age 23, 1 in 3. I'm not going to ask you who was arrested before the age of 23, but I can tell you that I have shared this statistic among many groups of my own friends and small groups and whatnot, and I can tell you it is, I feel like it's pretty valid. It is about 1 in 3 of being arrested. So, does being tech savvy and consumed, does it always guarantee success? Right? No. Let's look at this. This is one teacher's effort to distinguish how she is struggling in teaching in her classroom. She allowed every student to keep their phone out, and when they received a notification, they were to go to the board and mark a check in the category where that notification came in. So this is, say, 30 students over the course of 1 hour, and this is how many notifications there are. How do we ever expect our kids to learn when this is the amount of distractions that they're receiving? Let me tell you, when I ask them how they are tempted away from their faith, over and over and over is the word. It distracts me. I'm distracted. Makes me fall into sin. Distracts me from my faith. Distracts me, allows my peers to influence me in a bad way. They distract me and make me addicted. These are the answers that they gave. It is extremely distracting. Because they're savvy, they know how to do it all, and they're consumed. They're obsessed. It is not neutral technology. It's not. So therefore, we need to approach it very differently. And especially when it comes to their learning, businesses don't want. We think, our kids need to know this so they can be successful out in the world. But businesses don't want tech-savvy kids because they've got their own computer program that they're going to use, and they're going to train you on that because it's not going to be the same everywhere. You know what they want? They want problem solvers. They want people who know how to solve problems. They want people who work hard, who have a work ethic, that are teachable. They want you to be teachable. They don't want you to be consumed. They want you to actually show up for work and not be distracted. This is the hard part, right? But right now, they're so distracted. This is their classroom. Just imagine what their whole day is like if this was one point in time. So, tech savvy is not tech mature. Tech consumed is not healthy. And tech savvy and consumed does not guarantee success. Let's look at where all of this culminates with social media. Social media platforms. The top one is YouTube, which may surprise you. But a lot of people don't consider YouTube to be an actual social media platform, but the fact that you can share socially that you can like, that you can follow. It is actually defined as a social media platform. Next is Instagram, followed by Snapchat. When I did ask the students about how social media platforms can hurt or hinder their faith, one of several answers that they said on how it can grow their faith is that they have connection with godly mentors through social media. Some of them said that they feel like they have more of a platform to evangelize. So that's great. Another one is that they can hear other opinions and grow stronger in what they believe. So those are the three ways that there was only a couple. Some, in fact, actually answered social media does not grow my faith at all. So there you go. I mean, that's several of the answers. Again, distraction. I play so much, I don't think about Jesus. Social media has never helped me with my faith. So let's look at YouTube. Let's give you some information on YouTube. There's three things that sort of categorize YouTube, and that is the challenges that are on there. You can do a YouTube challenge. Lots of people want to do that. Many of you may have heard of the Tide Pod Challenge, right? That was an awesome one that put lots of kids in the hospital where let's see if we can swallow a Tide Pod and then have it not bust open and then pass it. The condom challenge, have you ever heard of this one? Oh, this is so ridiculous. They take a condom and then they fill it with water, and then the goal is to get it over their head, expand so much to get it over their head, but then they're suffocating. So crazy stuff, right? The picture I have here is it Jake Paul or Logan Paul, famous YouTuber who's gotten in tons of trouble with the law and everything else. And here he's doing the Bird Box Challenge where he's driving blindfolded. So there's just lots of stupid stuff. But you know what? I use YouTube to learn new stuff, right? I'm sure you do too. We rebuilt almost an entire house learning how to do everything on YouTube. It can be a really fantastic tool, but at the same time, it can also be a not so fantastic tool. Even worse, besides these viral challenges, is there's a lot of content promoting illegal behavior, and there are tons of pedophiles. YouTube has gotten into a lot of trouble because they were allowing these pedophile rings to occur. So what happens if you get on YouTube and if you use a incognito window where they don't know your preferences and all that, you go in there and say you search for cat videos and you click on a cat video and you watch it, then maybe you subscribe to that channel and then you watch another cat video. That AI, that learning, that algorithm just learned that you love cat videos. And within 3 clicks, you are trapped into nothing but cat videos, right? Nothing else is going to be suggested to you because it learns that you love cat videos. Well, the same thing can be true if you are looking for dangerous things. Hey, I want to learn how to hide vaping. How can I hide the smoke of vaping? Or how can I, hide my cutting? Or, how do I, attempt suicide? All of these terrible things. 3 clicks in, and you're into this rabbit hole, essentially. And so that is where YouTube was getting in trouble, is they were looking for kids in compromising positions. And within 3 clicks, all of these pedophiles were surrounded by little girls. This is one of the pictures, the example. And then they were commenting timestamps of when these young girls were in compromising positions. It's terrible. And the thing is you know how many kids are on YouTube? Tons, right? It's our kids. I mean, we maybe post a video to YouTube because it's funny, or maybe we were just trying to share it, and so we post it on YouTube, and they're all there. Maybe we don't even remember that they're there. And this girl, bless her heart, was just doing gymnastics, right? But that is one of the really sick ways that those predators can use YouTube. Now, Instagram. And research showed to be the absolute worst app for mental health. YouTube was voted the best for mental health. Because I think probably because you can learn through YouTube. It's a little bit different. But Instagram, because of its nature of competition and comparison, it is the worst for mental health. So it's got this aesthetic of perfection. We all know this. If you're on Instagram, you have a clue, right? You know everything is perfect on Instagram. No one is going to post a picture that isn't either filtered or already looks like pretty good. Maybe they will, but then you receive insta shame, right? Or at least that's what our kids say. So the competition, the comparison, the consumerism, there is this search for validation and really a lot of worship seeking. You know, we as human beings, our flesh desires to be liked, desires to be loved, but what Instagram does is it sort of takes it to this other level where we can become worshiped because we can be an influencer. I am so liked that now I influence other people. And so anybody with, more than 10,000 followers is considered an influencer and can either get paid to post whatever. So here's one example. This is a mom. Oh, no, go back. This is a mom, and she's posting this picture, and I don't know if you can read the caption, but she's like, casual Monday, and she's selling the leggings, and she tells how much there is, an oversized sweatshirt, and had a blast last night at, dinner with the family. Okay, so you look at that, and many of you think, oh, whatever. But let's really look at it from like a teenager's point of view, if this is a teenager and not a mom. Well, she looks pretty awesome. I don't look that awesome when I drive my kids to school in the morning. At all, right? Nope, not at all. I don't carry that kind of purse. I'm not that skinny. You can start immediately looking at all of this, but then you have to think, hold on. This is not a selfie. Her hands are in both pictures. This is a posed picture. The lighting, everything is completely, you name it, placed so that it looks perfect. But to the young, undiscerning eye, this person just has it together, right? They have it together. I want to be like that, but I'm not like that. And so I'm judging myself. I'm comparing myself. And then the next slide here is Kylie Jenner. No, good. Well, that's Kylie Jenner too. Sorry, Molly. And so, interestingly enough, Kylie Jenner is the top paid influencer. Anybody know how much she gets paid per post? $1 million. So if you want to reach the millions of people that Kylie Jenner has following her, you can pay her $1 million and she'll promote it. So interestingly enough, she promoted a lot of diet aid and like these detox vitamins and hair vitamins and all of these things. But I'm super excited to say that Instagram has now banned all of those for people under the age of 18. Because, basically, I guess their algorithm is going to determine whether or not you're 18 if you put your correct age in. Because of this unhealthy, lifestyle of dieting and body shaming that it is promoting on Instagram when they're seeing all of these ads for detox and weight loss and all of this. So that's actually a good thing. When I ask students about this, one of the answers they give is that peers negatively influence them. It's easy to fall into sin. And you can see, if they're on Instagram, how some of this can happen. Okay, let's go to the next slide of our good friend here, Kylie Jenner. Unrealistic imagery. And this is clean for Kylie Jenner. It is clean. If you've seen anything, it is just, she's just the worst. Well, actually, I think Kim Kardashian could maybe be, but, they're like half sisters, so it runs there. So here is her, and if you... So here is all the comments. You can see in the comments, LB. Do you know what that stands for? Like back. So people use these influencers, these celebrities, to post their name in order to say like back, meaning, hey, follow me. You're on Kylie Jenner's picture, right? You follow her, so follow me too. Click my name, follow me, in order to find more followers, right? We're seeking this fame, this worship. I want people to follow me. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you like or what beliefs you have, but just follow me. And this is super common. Not to mention the filters that you can apply, the self-promotion that's on Instagram. It's totally normal now to post a selfie, a posey, as they call them, when you're posed, and asking everybody to just like it and to follow you. Another aspect of Instagram is the search feature. There's 4 different things you can search on Instagram. The top posts. People, you can search for anybody that you want to. If you wanted to search for me, right, you type my name in. Tags, hashtags, you can search that. You can also search places. Here, in this little sample, we are searching porn and nude. And you can see how many hundreds of thousands of posts? Hashtag nude, 8.1 million posts. And there's no restrictions at all to block this search feature. So some people refer to Instagram as Instaporn because it is this easy. Pornography stars actually have their own accounts and are promoting themselves, and you will bring people over to paid Snapchat accounts where you can get extra content, and they do it through Instagram, and they do it, this is how it is. I mean, think about it. When you're curious, and it's right there in your middle school, high school age. There's also lots of ads here in the search feature, all this mature content, predators, preying, and there's no parental controls here at all. You can do a search for anything, anytime, and you can look for negative things, not just pornography, right? You can look for cutting. You can look for depression, anxiety, or whatever, and you can find pretty much a group of people who are going to agree with anything you want, right? My Facebook profile is totally benign because I've created it to be that way because I follow people who are friends with people who are like-minded to me. But when you're trying to find your identity in this world and you're searching for all of this and you don't know who you're like, what's like-minded to you, it's so easy to find yourself in all of these different categories. And all of a sudden, maybe you're questioning your gender. All of a sudden, you're questioning your sexuality. All of a sudden, you want to try drugs, or you want to, you're suicidal, and all these crazy things because they found this rabbit hole of a group of people who are supporting that notion. Now, let's talk about Snapchat. How many of you know what a Snapchat streak is? Don't be shy. One person? Or we're gonna a Snapchat streak. So a streak is when you and I have Snapchat, and after 3 days, I'm going to send you a snap, and then you send me a snap, and after 3 days of doing that, we have a streak. And Snapchat records that and keeps record of it and tells us how many days, and it's going to remind us, hey, don't forget, don't lose your streak because you have this streak going with this person, and then it's going to give us a running tally of how many streaks we have and who we have them with. And based on those streaks, it's going to tell us who our best friends are. Isn't that so nice of Snapchat? Gosh. I mean, I really wasn't sure who my best friends were, so I am so glad that Snapchat's here telling me. Right? So here it is. This is just one example, right? But here they give you the code of what the Snapchat emojis mean. So it's not only telling you who your best friends are, it's saying, hey, your best friend is actually someone else's best friend. Awkward. Think about how hard it is to be a girl in middle school. And they're on Snapchat, and this is what it's telling them. Because you can't control who your friend is snapping. Maybe you only allow Snapchat till 7 o'clock, and that friend's allowed to have it all night long, so she can snap so many more times. And so now Snapchat's saying, hey, that girl who's your best friend, she's really best friends with someone else. What a damaging way to build relationships. And it's not even real relationships, right? It's just this consuming of this technology. It's such a dangerous place for young middle schoolers. But Snapchat is, according to teens, the most important app. They deem it the most important app of their existence. So it endorses this habitual use. They're really like engineering relationships, sort of, psychologically manipulating our kids to constantly be in there. Those intermittent rewards. Well, if I lose my streak, oh my gosh, I'd be so terrible. We don't want that. Also in the Snapchat is the Snapchat Discover section. This is terrible. This is what Snapchat calls the news feed. So they don't really have anything that you can scroll necessarily. You can watch Snapchat stories, but this is their news feed, and it's fed by Sports Illustrated, Vogue, Cosmopolitan, all these other major media sources. The pictures are terrible, and this is actually the cleanest. There's way worse, but this is fairly clean. And it's, there's no parental controls to stop it. There's tons of mature content. I don't think I have it up there in this one, but there's actually one that is, here, your complete masturbation guide, and in it, it says, hey, make sure that you always use incognito windows so your parents don't know. I mean, it's the worst of the worst type of content there is. And it doesn't matter what age you tell it is, the content's terrible. I went in and said that I'm a 40-year-old woman, and it gives me the same content than I say if I'm a 13-year-old, boy. It's all the same garbage that's on there. And you watch one news, it's told through like a Snapchat story, so it's just like picture after picture, and it just auto-plays the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Interestingly enough, my kids told me this when they asked for Snapchat, which I don't allow at all, but they say, no one looks at the Discover section except when they're bored. And I'm thinking, you're always bored. And someone actually said that in there too. I don't remember what question it was. Someone said, I don't waste time on on the phone or on social media except when I'm bored. Which is a lot of times, right, for kids. Also in Snapchat, just one more wonderful aspect of this app is the trophies. This may not be used as much, but especially for middle schoolers, it sort of gamifies the app itself. You can earn these trophies for doing just silly things. Like you can send a text between 3 and 5 a.m. and you earn this little emoji, and that earning that trophy bumps your score up. And the score is nothing. The score just is a score, but it's a sort of quantification of your popularity in school. And so it's funny when you think about kids like doing all these silly things in order to gain these trophies, to increase their score, you think, is this really what we thought of when we wanted our kids to be, tech savvy and build up their tech skills by getting in this technology and using it early? No, right? Not at all, because this is not going to benefit them later in life. All right, so then let's look at TikTok, one last app. This is growing in popularity. I don't know how many of you are familiar with TikTok. It used to be called Musical.ly, and you create little short, you can call them music videos. They can be videos of anything. It really did start as maybe you're performing a song, kind of like a little mini video, and now it's just all over the place. You can post anything, and there's also all of these challenges. Challenges about, the whole VSCO girl, if you've heard of that. That was a big thing that came from TikTok. There's dangerous challenges on there as well, trying to do stupid stuff. There was recently that they were using eyelash glue to put on their lips in order to make them look more plump, and it was like causing all this damage and whatnot. That was a TikTok trend. So the challenges, and again, you can kind of use all of these filters to sort of change who you are and how you look. Sadly, it is actually, technologically speaking, a really cool app because they offer you a lot of features. You can make a pretty fun video. The problem is that it adds this social aspect, that you're putting it out there for them people to judge and like and comment on. And so that's where it can really become dangerous. The app itself, if you make those videos but do nothing with them but enjoy them for your own purpose, well, then that's pretty cool. But the hard part and the dangerous part is where they're sharing it and seeking that validation. One child, when I asked the question, they said, I want my parents to know that I'm not wasting time all the time. And I think TikTok is one of the biggest time sucks ever. 15 seconds of a video goes by like that, and then you're into the next one, and then you're into the next one. So I downloaded the app. You don't have to create an account to watch the videos. Like that's what a lot of people say is really great about TikTok. You don't even have to have an account. You just go on there and be entertained. And I'm watching it like transfixed, like this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's kind of like my mentality. But to kids, they're like, it's great, right? It's super entertaining to them. All right, so knowing that we're not going to be anti-technology, but there's all these dangers that I just laid out of social media, and we know these three truths, but we know that we can't go completely technology-less. We can't go smartphone-less. We're just not in a place where we can do that anymore. So we need to be pro-intentionality. We just need to be really, really intentional about our relationships, about balancing them with screens. So I'm going to go over a couple standards of how we can set for balance and relationships. How do we do this? Let me tell you, when I ask students about this, the middle schoolers told me about how they want technology to be changed in your home. Almost all the middle schoolers said, I want to be able to use it in my room. I want more time to play video games. I want 24/7 access. It was pretty across the board. And I have 3 middle schoolers, so I completely understand. Like, that's just where they are. But what I was super intrigued about and was not expecting is how many high schoolers said, I want more limits. I want a scheduled downtime. I want to use it less. I want clarification on what I can and cannot watch. I want clear guidelines. That's huge. Because by the time you get to high school, you have a little bit different, perspective of it. And that is where we want to get our kids. But here's the deal. If we just kind of let them go, and by the time they get to high school and throw our hands up and say, I don't want to fight them, they just want all this time. But the thing is, they don't. They actually really want clear, defined boundaries. So how do we set these standards? Number one, they're always character focused. So I wrote an entire book, Managing Media, Creating Character, based on how you can use all this technology to build strong character in our kids. The character that God desires can be taught, but you have to be very intentional through all of this technology. And those character traits are patience, respect, kindness, honesty, self-control, humility, modesty, and self-worth. Every standard should be that you set for your house. And I say standard because really it sounds better than rule. You can call it a rule, but it's a standard, right? But it should all be based on what kind of character it's going to grow in your child. That's the core thing. Because, again, we can't live without technology, so let's build some character while we're at it. And like I said, it's not going to be based on your feelings or emotions. If all of a sudden you get a whim, I hear this from parents all the time. Like, all of a sudden, your kid's watching TV, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, have I just let them on it for like 4 or 5 hours and not thought? And you're like, turn it off, everything, and like you kind of go crazy, you just take it all away. Or something happens, that's what we want to avoid. We're going to have a standard set from the get-go so that everybody knows it and everybody obeys it, and then we don't go into crazy parent mode. We also want our standard to be age appropriate. Basically, there is a time and a place for everything. An 8-year-old does not need to play an M for mature video game. There will be a time when they can play that game, when they are mature. But it's not at 8 years old. An 11-year-old does not need Instagram. Their young little brain cannot handle it. There is a time for that, and it is later. And a 5-year-old does not need an unlimited time on an iPad, right? There is time and a place for that. And the place, there's a time and a place for us as parents to be on our phones. Let me tell you, I had 4 high school students tell me about how they wanted technology to be different in their homes. Tell me that they did not want their parents to text and drive. That was a lot. I felt like that was a lot. I was surprised by that. And we think that we can do it, and a lot of times maybe we can compared to high schoolers. We have more experience driving. But that's the role model. That's the example that we're setting for them. And that's something that they want to see change. There's a time for technology, and it's not while we're driving. And that needs to be the firm standard that we set for our kids. And there's a time and a place for entertainment. It's not during school. So if we have to, and that we make that a clear boundary. So if we set that to where their phones don't have access to Netflix or don't have access to YouTube during the day, it's possible. And we do that because there's a time for entertainment, but it is not, right, during class. And our standard should also be self-applied, as I just said. We can't expect our kids to live up to a standard that we aren't willing to live up to ourselves. Remember, they watched us. They watched us be on our phones. And that's the example that we've set. So we can't say, put your phone away at dinner, and then we take out our phone and we start responding to text messages. That's when I say, they get to call you out. Give them permission, because you have to be held to that same standard. And what I do, and what I suggest to parents, is you say, hey, I am so sorry, but I really need to respond to this text because maybe it's so-and-so and they need to be picked up from school. You talk about why you're using the phone. Or you're in a middle conversation. Oh, you know what? I think I got an email from your teacher. I'm just going to pull out my phone and I'm going to check that. And you talk about what you're doing to show that you're using it for productive use. Show them, because you don't know what they're doing. It's individual screen media. It's right in front of their face. It's right in front of your face. And I have no idea if you're reading your Bible app or you're playing Fortnite. Right? So we hold ourselves to the same standard. And also we want our standard to be communication driven. We have to communicate through this. We have to be calm. We have to be listening, even though that is so super hard. And these conversations can't really just happen over text, right? We can't just text our kids from the other room and say, hey, how was your day at school? Or whatever. I think you've used too much technology. Put it away. And you're texting that, right? Not going to happen. So how do we do this? We recognize growth. We basically want to say, hey, you know what? Thank you for putting your phone up at 9 o'clock, for the whole week like you were told to do. That really shows a lot of responsibility. You might think that is a minor thing, that you ask them to put the phone up at a certain time and they're actually doing it, but you praise them and you give them that communication. You just high-five them and be like, yes, you haven't gotten in trouble on your technology in a week, right? You rock. And again, because it's baby steps towards there. Or hey, I noticed you finished your homework from playing video games. That's great. And then you receive feedback. That's where your kids can kind of say, hey, Mom, I'm right here. Can we talk? Instead of being on your phone. Or you're watching a family movie together and yet you're on your phone. That was also something else that kids said, is that when you're watching a movie, you're not also on your phone. And let them say, hey, aren't we watching this together? Aren't we doing this together? Receive that feedback without judgment. That way you can give that same feedback to them. That is how you're going to meet in the middle. That is where you're going to meet on that bridge, and you're going to be able to communicate through that. And then we want our standards to be expanding. Essentially, our goal is that you start this at middle school and high school, and by the time they're 18, they're doing it on their own. They're limiting on their own. They're managing their own media. That is the goal, that they go to college and they're not staying in their dorm room playing video games all day long, because they have learned the importance and the practice of balance, right? So we always are expanding. They might mess up. You might restrict a little bit more, but then you try it again, because they've got to learn how to balance it themselves. Because the goal, ultimately is that as they demonstrate responsibility, they get freedom. Every child, teenager, wants the freedom of an adult, but they aren't going to be as responsible as adults. But we need to move them that way, especially when it comes to technology, because too many college students are failing at this. They're getting into their college classes, and instead of learning, what are they doing? They're on their laptops, they're on their phones. Or they didn't even go to class and they're, at home playing video games. So we want to loosen and expand those standards. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, we as parents, it is our charge. And you may think, I don't know enough, I'm not tech savvy enough, but it doesn't matter. You have to learn. You have to know the apps that they're using. You have to get in there, and you just have to work with them to say, show me why you love this video game. Tell me about it. Let me sit down next to you and learn what it is. Even though you may think it is the dumbest thing ever, let them tell you and explain and try and see your child's heart, because to them, it is their whole world. And if we go completely against it, well, then they go completely against us, and our relationship is hindered, it is severed, and it is hurting. So whatever you allow, you have to monitor. You choose. If you allow it, you have to monitor it. And I suggest if you're going to allow it, you know what it is. And when you're monitoring it, you need to mentor through it. It's not just, hey, I saw you use this much time on the app or whatever. It's like looking, as if the first time they get social media, it's looking. What kind of friends are you? Who are you following? What does that look like? Because it matters who you follow. People are looking at those type of facts of, I'm considering you for college. What kind of people are you following? I'm applying to a Christian college. What kind of people are you following on your Instagram accounts? Are they all over the board, right? They can look at all that. And then also, as we mentor, we need to model. Plain and simple. We have to be better role models. We have to be the brave ones who, no matter how hard they push against us, we stand and say, I know that character and relationships are worth this battle. They are worth it. And even though they're like, oh, I'm not going to have any friends if I do this, and oh, you're ruining my life. No, we know this. We have enough wisdom, so we need to be brave and set a standard. And we live to that standard ourselves, and we uphold it from the time we started all the way to the end. It is hard, but we need to be brave and set this standard. Entertainment needs to be balanced with education. Consuming needs to be balanced with character. Followers balanced with real life relationships. and scrolling, balance with serving one another. This is what we were created for in Christ, and we cannot let our kids be completely saturated and filled with the world of the internet and through their phones and fall away from the faith. All right, I have some resources for you. If you're one of those parents who are like, I have no clue, you're that parent who the child said, learn everything about technology or just watch a YouTube video. So I do have a book. It's called Managing Media Creating Character, and it goes through all of those character traits. We also have parent guides available. So if you're like, I have no idea about Instagram, or I don't even know, what to do. I think my child may be depressed or anxious. I don't know how to talk to my kid about pornography. Any of these big, hot topics, we have parent guides. I have some samples at the table out there that you can kind of look at, but they're just free downloads. They're PDFs, and they guide you, and they tell you exactly what this app or this topic is about, and then it guides you into conversations with your children. We also have all the resources that I handed out to you. I also have a podcast, a weekly podcast called Brave Parenting, where I go over one app every single week. This week that releases on Friday will be over VSCO, which is a very popular photo editing app. So that'll be the one. Last week we went over Bumble, which is a dating app. And so then we also talk about character. We talk about what's going on in the news. So my goal is basically to equip you and educate you what is going on in this constantly changing world so that you can then have conversations with your kids, feel like you're relevant, feel like you know what is going on in that, as well as just those hot topics about technology and how it affects character. So those are some resources for you as well. You have lots of resources in your hands of those. There is a form specifically for the Freedom Sheet that you have as a blank form. I highly recommend using this. This is how we began setting the standard for across the board because, I have lots of children in my house, and so I couldn't possibly remember at every different age how to do this, and it has been one of the most successful things that we've done, is we write it down, and it's very clear to where our kids know, we know, and it's set. I can't change my mind because it's already written down. It's agreed upon, and so it's a really fantastic way to set a new standard. And I always have my kids be a part of making that whole process up. Well, how much time do you think is appropriate? How much time do I think is appropriate? Can we meet in the middle? It's a great resource to have. Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Really appreciate it. So we're gonna get out of here and go back. Kelly will be back by the Welcome Center, by the resource table where you can buy books and get some other things there. So any questions that you have for her, she'll be out there. But I just want to say thanks to really the family ministry, Strengthening Family Ministry team, Kate McAnally and Alan Walliger head that up. And then Raylan Hamby did a bunch on this. And as all things sort of seem to happen, you put a lot of work into something, and then you get a child that gets hand, foot, and mouth. Is that it? Yeah, and you have to stay home with one. So she couldn't be here tonight. But when you see Raylan on Sunday or whatever, just tell her thanks for all the effort that she did put into this. But I hope it's been worthwhile, and I hope you got some information. And like I say, Kelly's back there for some questions. Let's pray, and then we'll head on out. Father God, thank you once again for this evening. Thank you for people like Kelly, who you put a passion on their heart, and that runs with it, and then makes it a mission to educate others on just what you're telling her and the experiences that she's had to help her help others. Father, I pray that you help us as we raise our children and raise our families and grandkids, that you help us to be in touch with what's going on, help us to be brave in confronting the things we need to confront, and understanding that sometimes the decisions we make are not popular, but they're godly. So we thank you for your love. We thank you for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.